cops and FBI agents. Yep, you heard that right. So buckle up because we're about to dive into a story that'll leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about law enforcement. Let's get started. Where the brave men of law enforcement face off against the brilliant minds of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, only to find out that sometimes even the brightest badges can't outshine the sheer force of hilarious mishaps. Number 1. When Gordon got a phone call from someone who said they were with the FBI, he couldn't believe it. The caller requested a meeting at a parking lot in the area, and as soon as Officer Gordon arrived, he was instructed to turn off his body camera. The meeting took place without incident. "Yes, but I don't see what the big deal is with you coming to see me at the office," you responded. "I do. Regarding this matter, I will discuss it with the United States Attorney's Office. Turn off the recording gadget right now, all right?" "Well, I'll do that when I walk out of this building," Officer Gordon responded. Alexis was a part of a big investigation that looked at the acts of law enforcement agencies in North Florida because there had been numerous instances of corruption involving anything from arresting innocent people to taking small offenders, despite the fact that Agent Hatton portrayed the cop as an FBI spy. The investigation was conducted because there had been many instances of corruption involving anything from arresting innocent people to taking minor offenders. Officer Gordon was asking him how he got his number, but the agent had not informed him that Officer Gordon was involved in the conversation. Officer Gordon, who along with his whole police department was under investigation by the FBI, made the decision to call for assistance while Hatton was being transported in the car while he was handcuffed. In addition to this, he closed the door, which made the plight of the elderly Manhattan even more severe. No matter what the results of the FBI's inquiry turned out to be, one thing was certain. Had the operation taken place on the sweltering day in Florida, it would have been a catastrophe for Hatton. Number 2. In September of 2022, when the FBI started investigating the conduct of the Kansas Police Department, they discovered a case involving a police investigator named Roger Golofsky that had been neglected for a very long time. It was discovered that the former law enforcement officer had blurred the borders between the bodies of black men and women throughout his 35-year reign of terror. The common people know how someone might get away with doing that for nearly 20 years without getting caught. Between the years 1998 and 2002, Golofsky was accused of physically assaulting 2 black women. In addition to this, he had a reputation for exchanging illegal substances for information. A federal grand jury decided to indict him on 6 counts of sexual assault after it became public that he was being investigated for the incident. Golofsky has entered a plea of not guilty. Roger Golofsky's court-appointed attorney entered a not guilty plea on his behalf, but the FBI was just not willing to let him go away that easily. Golofsky was presented in court on September 15, 2022, where his attorney requested that because Golofsky was suffering from serious health issues and had undergone quintuple heart surgery, he should not be kept detained given Golofsky's crimes. The jury rejected the attorney's request while assuring that Golofsky would be sentenced to prison. Golofsky had given false testimony against a young black guy named Lamont McIntyre, claiming that McIntyre was responsible for committing 2 separate murders. Because of Golofsky's false testimony, Lamont spent 24 years of his life behind bars, which did nothing but exacerbate trust issues in the state of Kansas. Lamont was just 17 at the time. During his 35-year tenure as a law enforcement officer, this horrible act was just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the number of serious offenses he had committed. It was well known that Golofsky was a cop who could quickly solve cases thanks to the confidential informants he had. The majority of these informants were Kansas City-based sex workers who identified as female. Rhonda, a woman of African descent, was Golofsky's informant and one of these people. Even though an inquiry was opened into Rhonda's death, it was ultimately closed without producing any answers to the many issues that were generated by her passing. This contributed only to further demonstrate that the Kansas Police Department as a whole needs a significant organizational overhaul. Rhonda's body was found in 1998. However, the mystery surrounding her death has not been resolved. The good news is that the FBI has opened a substantial investigation into the Kansas police force. And as a direct result of this investigation, many questions that have been left unaddressed up to this point are once again becoming apparent. As a direct consequence of this, we submitted a request for $1.7 million to assist with the examination of the loose leaf files. "I can sleep knowing that he's in jail," said one of Golovsky's victims after the case was closed. "I'm sick and weary of evading those unscrupulous police officers." As expected, numerous civil rights organizations all around the country expressed their satisfaction with the arrest, but this is only the beginning. Tricia Bullnell, director of the Midwest Innocence Project, stated that a thorough investigation into the abuses in Wyandotte County and comprehensive reforms are required to ensure that no other police officers or public officials can continue to abuse their power. Even though Golovsky's case is still pending, Bullnell stated that these steps are necessary to ensure that no other abuses of power can occur. Number 3. 2 DEA personnel have been detained by the FBI on suspicion of selling drugs. Despite the fact that the DEA is well known for its effective operations against drugs and for its efforts to keep them out of the country as much as possible, the events that took place in Nassau completely shocked everyone. Even though they were both arrested on the same day for crimes they had committed in their respective industries, James Hickox and Joshua Airway, 2 DEA task force officers, were imprisoned by the FBI in March 2023. This was despite the fact that they were both apprehended on the same day. Although Highway Patrol Trooper Joshua Airway had been arrested for the use of narcotics while in possession of firearms and drugs obtained from an informant, they also claimed that he obtained 43 legal prescriptions for oxycodone, hydrocodone, and a form of morphine. Despite the fact that both Hickox and Airway were arrested on the same day, there is no evidence to support either charge. This office routinely sold drugs including cocaine, and Sergeant James Hickox was arrested for possessing drugs with the purpose to sell them. Among the drugs found in his possession was cocaine. It is possible to deduce the amount of money that James Hickox was making based on the fact that the FBI found 3 shoeboxes holding a total of $100,000 hidden in the closet of Hickox's bedroom, in addition to $250,000 in cash. The allegations that Hickox would keep some of the pills for himself while combining the rest of them with other powdered substances in order to maintain their weight prompted the FBI to launch an inquiry into the officer's behavior. The allegations came from a source who claimed that the officer had done this. Hickox told the investigators that he couldn't recall where the money came from, that he had a gambling problem, and that he borrowed money from a lot of different people, despite the fact that a sizable amount of cash had been found between January 20th and October 22nd. Hickox said that he had a gambling problem and borrowed money from a lot of different people. The authorities continue to operate under the assumption that a number of activities are being carried out in private. Hickox is being held in the Duval County Jail while he awaits the filing of an indictment for the crime he is suspected of committing. Hickox has given up his right to a detention hearing, so he will remain in jail until the preliminary hearing that is scheduled to take place on March 23rd. Investigations will be carried out internally at the Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, the Nassau County Sheriff's Office, and the Florida Highway Patrol. Joshua Airway was busy utilizing the narcotics that he had collected during different traffic stops, but what made Arias' situation worse than Hickox was the fact that Airway had worked as a drug handling agent for a considerable amount of time. Hickox's case was an individual who had not been involved in the drug trade. In addition to utilizing narcotics that had been illegally obtained, he also bought drugs from a variety of different drug traffickers. To put it another way, Joshua Airway was engaged in the very behavior that he was supposed to prohibit, but it didn't continue for a sufficient amount of time. After appearing in front of a federal magistrate, the source who was posing as a drug dealer was able to obtain authorization for 43 legal prescriptions for oxycodone. This is in addition to the consumption of narcotics that were confiscated during traffic stops and the purchase of drugs from drug traffickers. The corruption of Hickox and Aries had shaken the DEA to its very core, which begs the issue of whether or not there are further rotten apples existing within its ranks. Joshua Airway had his bond set at the amount of $50,000. He was prohibited from communicating with any DEA personnel, and he was expected to seek treatment for his addiction to drugs, as well as his mental health issues. In addition, he vented his anger and frustration about what had transpired. According to statements made by the Sheriff of Nassau County, Bill Leeper, "My belief is that we should make it a priority to ensure that law enforcement officials and officers who break the law are held accountable. These were some of the unpleasant occurrences that occurred when the police and the FBI crossed paths. Please subscribe to my channel if you found that the video entertained you and also provided you with useful information. Please let me know in the comments below what you think about the corrupt police officers till the next time we talk. Thank you for watching.